In just a short time, our world has changed. The COVID-19 outbreak has left us scared, unsettled, and anxious. We are living in unprecedented times. But we have been here before. In today's podcast, Richard and I discuss what you can do with your donors during a time of crisis like we are in today. We'll give you some tips to connect with them and help you avoid mistakes that other organizations and major gift officers have made in previous disasters or downturns in the economy. Yes, we are in a crisis, but calm, cool heads always prevail in times like these.
Welcome to the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group, featuring Richard Perry and Jeff Schreifels. Twice a month, we bring you the latest and best thinking about major gift fundraising, so you can develop authentic relationships with your major donors. Here are your hosts, Richard and Jeff.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. And of course, I have Richard Perry with me. And Richard, wow. I mean, our world has just turned upside down right now. It's crazy.
I know. I mean, it's unprecedented. I mean, we've had other disasters, crisis, and economic turmoil, but this one is new with a virus where we're practicing social distancing and
I know.
If you think about some of those other disasters, I mean, take for example 9/11. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was unprecedented too at the time, but so was the tsunami and Katrina and the economy crashing in 1987 and again in 2008.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jeff, while this is a scary time, we also know we'll get through it and we'll work our way out of it. Mm-hmm. I know this because, I mean, I've been doing this fundraising thing for over 40 years and I've seen it all and been through it all. So it's kind of familiar territory. I know it's familiar with you as well. I mean,
yeah, but for a listener who's been maybe fundraising for a couple of years. So tell me why. I mean, yes, you've been through this, but tell me why you feel we're going to be able to get through this in the wake of all of this. What is it that you've learned?
Well, first, what I've learned is that the societal need that every organization is organized to address, and you listening right now, you have an organization that exists to meet a certain societal need. Yeah. That's not going to go away. And this crisis will, even if it gets worse, will eventually go away. It'll change us, mm-hmm. But as time passes, it'll move on. And then your need of the organization that you're organized to address will still be there.
Yeah.
And that's a constant. And that's what you've got to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. Today, we want to talk about, what are some things that major gift officers, plan giving officers, mid-level officers can do with their donors. And we'll talk about what we've learned from all of those major disasters or crisis. What are some mistakes that nonprofits have made that you don't have to make? Because mm-hmm. we've been through it and seen what happens when nonprofits make mistakes during times of crisis. So, well, let's get into this. So, okay, right now we're in the middle of this situation. And we definitely have not reached the peak of this. It's just starting, it feels like. And it seems like now the new normal is that everyone is working from home. And if you're a major gift fundraiser, PGO or MLO, you're probably doing all of this from home. So let's talk about what should you do if you can't meet with donors face to face as we're used to. What do we do?
Well, I know. I mean, and you and I have talked about this ourselves. Like maybe we should get on a video conference call, every 2 or 3 days and have a glass of wine together.
Well, I know it's a good idea because we need that connection. I mean, both of us crave that interconnectivity with other humans, and we need that. And
so that's the first point.
Go out somewhere.
I know, just to take care of yourself, both physically.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about the physical stuff, like, okay, don't be near people, wash your hands, watch the sneezing and coughing, wipe down the surfaces. I mean, we know all that stuff.
Yeah.
But how about taking care of yourself emotionally and psychologically?
And physically? I mean, that's important. Like already, all the gyms are closed. I get up at 4:30 and get to the gym by 5 every day. And I can't do that. It's thrown me way off. So I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? And so I've already started thinking through, okay, how can I do things at home? But I've got to do something active, right? And because the tendency would be, well, we'll just wait it out. And then once the gyms reopen, I'll get back on it. I mean,
yeah, and you'll put on 10 pounds.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm worried about. So
I mean, like this morning, I just got my weights out, and I have my whole routine that I'm doing in the den.
I know,
but that's the physical side, and we're basically saying, you have got to be disciplined about that and make yourself get out, take a walk, do something physical. But the emotional and psychological side, is also very important. Staying in touch with people, being connected. Not getting into that whole routine where you just sitting around and watch TV all day.
Right. I know. And that could be a tendency for us to do.
It'll kill you.
Like, oh, well, we're all going down. Might as well just watch TV. I mean, we can't do it.
Yeah. Taking care of yourself is so important. And then also like reaching out to your donors through email and phone and video conferencing and text and personal notes. I mean, this is so critical because they're going through all the same stuff.
Exactly.
So it's important to reach out to them. And I think, Jeff, there's kind of two levels of messaging related to that. One is showing genuine concern for the donors.
Yeah.
Because, many of them are elderly and afraid.
Right.
And if they're not elderly, they're certainly afraid or anxious. So that one side of that communication is showing the genuine concern and care. And the other side is, hey, the needs of this organization and the people we serve, or if you're in conservation, the planet, the animals that we help. I mean, whatever it is so critical.
The need doesn't go away.
No.
And we've got to tell our donors that. And I think that's something that initially we're thinking, oh, well, all we're doing is thinking about this virus thing. Our donors aren't going to want to hear from me or want to think about anything else. I don't think that's true. I think they do. And we know they do because we've been through these other crises. And while we need to acknowledge what's happening, it doesn't mean we stop communicating. And that's why it's so important to use all the ways that we can. And, the other side of it is we do have this technology we can use today that 20, 30 years ago, we couldn't. I mean, the idea of video conferencing, texting and everyone's on email. And of course, the phone. People want to connect, and don't forget that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, Jeff, keeping in mind, because one of the things that you and I have talked about, and we've talked about with our colleagues at Veritas, is it's so easy for donors, and rightly so, to be distracted by this. How am I going to get groceries? How am I going to stay healthy? That one of the roles MGO and PGO needs, and an MLO needs to do, is to basically remind donors in a very socially acceptable way and caring way that the need still exists, and now more than ever their support is needed. It's so critical. I mean, you cannot get off of that point.
Exactly. And the other thing, your organization might be dealing directly with this, like if you're a health organization. And if you're in the healthcare space, you definitely want to try to update your donors on what is happening on an ongoing basis. This is an opportunity for you to communicate that of what your institution is doing, if it's directly related to the coronavirus. And then if you're not directly, let's just say you run an animal shelter, indirectly, you are affected by this, and your donors need to hear. I mean, in many cases, volunteers aren't able to come, of course. So how are you dealing with that? Your donors can help with that. There's all kinds of ways for you to connect to your donors and allowing them to know what's happening with your organization and your mission as it relates to what's happening with the virus.
And I think the other point that we've talked about is not to give up on donors that can't give. I mean, so we said a little bit earlier in this podcast is basically you need to be talking about the needs of the organization. Yeah. But also you're going to run into some donors that say, my business is really, it's in the tank. Yeah. And so if you're a major gift officer, a planned giving officer, or working in mid-level, your response to that is one of grace and understanding and partnership and support. I understand what you just said, Mary, about your business. Mm. And, don't worry about that. Right. Do whatever you can do. That's right. And because that really, really helps. I mean, these are the times you stay with your donors. Mm-hmm. You've asked your donors to, in times of trouble with your organization, I'm sure you've reached out to your donors to help. And now they're hurting and they need your help to come alongside of them and let them know it's going to be okay and that you haven't abandoned them. I mean, we've had cases, we've talked about this, Richard, in the last economic turmoil in 2008. I mean, it looked really bleak. And there were a lot of major gift officers whose donors were giving large amounts and they had to cut those amounts drastically. And those MGOs that stood by those donors, because quite honestly, a lot of those donors, they were embarrassed that they could no longer give at the levels that they wanted to give. Yeah, you feel bad. Right. I mean, you and I'd feel bad, like, oh my goodness, I'm letting these people down. Exactly. And those MGOs they said, hey, they said exactly what you said. Don't worry about this. We're with you in here on this. We understand. And you continue to maintain the same amount of contact. You let them know what's happening with the organization, knowing that, they're not able to give at the levels they did or give it all. Right. When we all know that everything's going to come back up again. It always does. And when that happens, those donors that felt cared for and loved and that you were concerned about will remember that and be able to give again at those levels or even higher. And that's what we saw from those donors in 2008 and 2009. Eventually, they came back and gave at greater amounts than they ever did before. Why? Exactly. Because they were treated well. Yep. Now, here's another question. What are some other ideas for major gift fundraisers, while they're working from home? Yeah. That now they might have more time to do. What are some of those ideas? We should chat about that. Well, yeah. So first of all, let's not forget, you do have a plan for your donors. So I would reevaluate that plan, right? And look at, okay, what was I planning for the next 3 or 4 months? I might have to adjust that plan, especially if you were if you had in-person meetings scheduled or there was an event somewhere or whatever, those plans will have to be changed a bit, but you have to still continue working that plan. Well, and again, the plan substantially at its core might not change, but the medium might change. You were going to make a personal meeting. Now you're going to do it on the phone. Exactly. You're going to do it in a video call or whatever. There's no need to change that unless it's, So don't stop working the plan. I mean, that's a big deal. Work the plan. But so you aren't out. So now you're working from home. You will have more time. I know this. We know this, Richard, from working from home for years and years versus an office. If you had 8 hours in an office, it's probably somewhere the equivalent to 3 to 4 hours in a home office. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. Because you're not going down, trying to get coffee and then having a 30-minute conversation with someone on the side or
or you're not going all out for coffee and coming back and taking those breaks. You're just not doing those things. And all of a sudden you realize, gosh, I can get a whole lot done in 3 hours than the same I could do in 8 hours in an office. So you got to, you probably will have more time to do this work. And now's the time to start really researching donors, I think.
Exactly.
Donors want to be known. And the whole idea for you as a fundraiser is to know your donor. So take more time, research more on your donors.
And it's also a good time to evaluate your portfolio.
Exactly.
And basically say, okay, now let's see, are all these donors still the right ones that I should be relating to, or do I need to replace some? And if I do, then you can kind of move into the qualification process and kind of get that whole thing going. I mean, it's a great time to evaluate, who's on the caseload, and who you're talking to, and how you're using your time.
Yeah. Another thing is getting your database in shape. I mean, making sure you've got updated notes about your donors in the database. Are your actions up to date? Have you cleaned up your contacts? Do you have the right address, the phone numbers? Do you have duplicates that you need to get cleaned up? This is a great time to be able to do that work. Our major excuse, I just don't have the time to do that stuff. I'll wait until and it never gets done because you're out there, working those relationships, building relationships with donors and doing some of that busy work or desk work. It always gets the last, you don't get to it. Now you might have time to be able to do it. Yeah.
I mean, you and I were talking this morning about the stuff that we have now time to catch up on at home, personal stuff. We got these chores and this thing. Same thing in your work.
Yeah. This weekend, we're going to clean out the attic. We're always saying, we never have time for that.
I was wondering when you were going to do that.
There's no place to go. So now we're going to clean out the attic.
Well, there you go. See, here's another one: is acquaint yourself more with your organization's programs. In other words, why don't you explore the website and go through that? Talk to more program people.
Yeah.
Find time to figure out like that because now you have these 3 donors that are interested in these programs.
Right.
Talk to those program managers. Find out the details. Get acquainted. If they have documents they can send you, they can email them to you and you can actually look at that. Great time to get educated even more about what the organization does and looking for opportunities to match up your donors to those program categories and subcategories.
Yeah.
Great time to do that.
Yeah. And I think another thing, this is a big one, and you had discussions with some leaders already on this, Richard, is evaluate the strategic plan and revenue goals, because we're probably looking somewhere at a 4 to 6 month hit here.
Yep.
And so we need to be realistic and look at the revenue goals and, look at what were you expecting over the next 4 to 6 months and realize those gifts that you expected as you cash flowed your goals may come in the fourth quarter, hopefully. And you might need to do things and adjust accordingly and let your managers and leaders know what's happening. I'm sure, hopefully, if you're in a good nonprofit, the leaders and managers are already looking at this and asking you to review this on your own portfolios, but be proactive yourself and start looking at, okay, in the next 4 to 6 months, what was I expecting? What do you think still will happen? What do you think is iffy? Because donors are, they're waiting to see what happens through this period and then hopefully in the fourth quarter or the first quarter of next year, you'll start to see that rebound.
Exactly. This is very critical. And so we find that a lot of people are just sitting and waiting for stuff to happen to them versus actually getting in front of it and saying, all right. Think about it this way on a personal level. You have a certain revenue input into your personal life. It's a salary and you get your compensation. You might get paid monthly. You might get paid bi-monthly. You have an expectation that money is going to come in. But if you knew that it was going to drop by 20%, you would take action right now to do something about it. Well, that's what you've got to do with these donors, with your forecasts. Is like, okay, what's going to happen 4 to 6 months in this next 4 to 6 months? And then how do I adjust and deal with the variances?
Right.
Got to get into that like right now. Don't wait. Yep.
Okay, so these are some things that you can do right now. Richard, let's tap into all of these years of fundraising experience, and let's talk about what are some of the mistakes that you've seen that nonprofits had made in the past when you've seen us go through national tragedies or disasters, and what can we learn from this one?
Well, I think one of the big ones, Jeff, is the assumption that donors won't give. I mean, this is really a strange one. We make up these stories in our heads about donors that, well, you know what? I'm just sure they're not going to give. In fact, we had one comment as this morning when we were getting ready to record this podcast, where someone was saying, well, you know, because of this situation, we're just going to kind of cut back on solicitations and it's like, what?
I know.
What are you going to do? And there's a story. Someone has said, oh, well, they're not going to give, so we just better cut back. No, you actually need to ask. You need to talk to them about it. So that's one big mistake people make. They start to reframe what the donors are doing. Now, it is true that donors are concerned. In some cases, they have. We know of cases where the donors, their personal business, their small business is hurting, and so these are difficult times. But that still does not mean that they won't give, because there's something that happens when there's a crisis like this in a donor's heart. The donor is not only focused on their own situation, but they're focused on, you know what? There's a lot of people and there's a lot of situations that are worse off than I am. I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
That still is playing.
Donors,
so, assume donors won't give.
Get this, everyone, or if you're listening, donors want to hear from you about what your needs are. And yes, you have to have different messaging because you can't sound like you're tone deaf about what's going on in the world. So nuance the messaging, but the need is still there, and you need to tell them that those needs are still there.
Exactly. Another one is that nonprofit leaders will worry about revenue, which they should.
Yeah.
But then their immediate reaction is to cut development costs.
Yeah.
This is the last place you want to cut. This is the last place you want to cut.
Yeah.
Cut everything else, but don't cut your sales force.
Exactly.
This is another big mistake. You and I have been through this, Jeff. I mean, I remember back when we worked together in a direct marketing agency, we went through a crisis, and you were on the front line of that. And there was one very large organization that if we mentioned who it was, everybody would recognize it. But it's like, you persuaded them, stay the course. Do not cut donor acquisition. Do not cut cultivation. Do not cut major gifts. And they came out stronger and better.
They were about ready to cut some massive, and we were able to convince them because we showed them, look, if you do this now, 2 to 3 years from now, you are going to be in a world of hurt just by looking at the numbers. So we're telling you, if you're thinking about cutting your acquisition, your cultivation budget, major gifts, you will be hurting in 2 or 3 years. You might save some expense in the immediate, but long term, you will be hurting yourself, and it'll take you so much longer to get out of the hole.
So much more money.
Yeah, and more money. Believe us, those organizations that stayed the course, kept plugging away at it, came out so much better.
Yeah. In fact, the funny thing that happens is when these kind of things happen and the organization just sort of kind of a knee-jerk reaction, just sort of like cuts things, all they do is move the problem into the future.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening. you haven't actually done any good. You just moved it into the future.
Right.
And that is not a wise business decision. It really isn't. So that's a big one. Stay the course. Cut in other non-revenue producing areas. You need to cut. Do not cut revenue producing areas.
Keep communicating with your donors. Do not stop communicating. They want to hear from you. In this last downturn back in 2008, if you remember, what came out of that was that many nonprofits woke up to the fact that they needed a major gift program to weather these storms. And those organizations that didn't have a major gift program really were hurting because they didn't have or planned giving program. Yeah, they didn't have a diversified revenue stream. They were getting it either all through direct response, and they were really hurting. And that's why, we really started taking off, because organizations started realizing, hey, we've got to figure out this major gift thing.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, think about the organizations now that we're hearing from who depend largely on events.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, their whole business strategy for revenue is, we're going to do all these events.
Right.
Well, sorry. Look at what's happening now.
Yeah.
You need to have diverse. I mean, that's the magic word in business as well as in nonprofits. Diversified.
And it's interesting. Look what's happening. So when you don't have the event, people are now just turning to the specific donors that would have attended the event and asking them to still continue to give. And guess what? Right. Donors are giving without going to an event.
Right.
Which is what Major Gifts is more about.
Yeah.
Developing relationships with donors, and really tying it into the mission, the passion and interest of the donor in the mission.
So if you're like reliant on events or just direct mail, and you don't have planned giving up and running, and you don't have major gifts up and running, and you don't have mid-level up and running, what's actually happening is you don't have a robust and thriving donor pipeline, which means you are going to face a major crisis, and you're probably in one right now.
Yeah.
So now's the time to think about, how am I going to develop the rest of that pipeline? You've got to have acquisition. You have to have direct marketing, cultivation, and online stuff going on. We probably wouldn't do the events, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the rest of it, mid-level, major planned giving, because that is going to save the day when these kinds of things happen.
Yeah. Well, gosh, we could go on for a long, long time.
We could.
And this whole thing seems fluid, this situation. It's changing. Like every day, something new is happening. And we want to make sure that we're on top of it and that you get the best advice from us that we can at the time. So I'm sure we're going to be talking more about this and having other podcasts in the future surrounding what do we do about this situation and that. So we're committed at Veritas to make sure that you're getting the best information that we know can pass on to you. And but before we sign off, I want to make sure you're aware that we have a number of resources around this whole COVID-19 situation. If you go to our website at veritasgroup.com, there's a whole coronavirus COVID-19 resource page. There's a number of resources to click on and upload. There's blog posts, there's podcasts, there's videos of how to think about and what to do during this time of crisis. There's a webinar. All of those things will be available to you to give you as much information as you can. This is tough, and we're all coming together, giving each other good ideas on how to get through this together. So go to veritasgroup.com and look for our resource around the coronavirus, COVID-19 stuff. So
and this whole situation is going to be changing. I mean, by the time this podcast airs, there'll be a different different circumstances and different environments. What still stays the same is you've got to talk to your donors, and you've got to express the need of the organization. Stay on that course, stay on the plan, don't get off of it. That's the important thing, no matter what's going on.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back to you soon. Thank you for listening, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us for the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group. Richard and Jeff also write an ongoing blog that you can subscribe to for free at veritasgroup.com. Please join us again next time.